Mm. Hello, hello.
Hello there.
So welcome to our new live show. It's called Pub Talk. Just a brief breakdown of what we'll be doing. It's basically going to be the first 15, 25 minutes is going to be a chance for all of you to submit some questions in the chat about publishing. And then the second half, we're going to have our BeatStars publishing client, Chris Rich, join, and we're going to ask him some questions about his experience with publishing, his experience in the industry, and all of that. We have a couple questions on deck, but if you have any questions regarding publishing, please submit them in the chat. All right, Greg, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Greg Mateo. I'm the president of the BeatStars publishing team. Listen, I appreciate all y'all being here. I know it's the first one, but we're going to make this a monthly thing and to really go over any type of questions or things you guys want to discuss as it pertains to publishing. And I guess if you have other music related questions too, we can go over that, and then obviously introduce you to some of our great roster as well, and as Cami said, they'll be given pointers and really kind of how they went through their journey as a producer and still are, really. So really happy to have Chris Rich on, amazing producer from the UK, who's been a member at least at BeatStars for a little bit, so it'd be good to kind of get into his brain a little bit. So yeah, I don't know if there's any initial ones, Cami, that we want to go over, or I can start talking.
All right. So the first question we had submitted was pretty basic. It is, what is publishing?
Nice. Listen, I mean, honestly, it's not the most straightforward of answer, or I guess topic. I know, Cami, you've been with us for a minute too, and I know every day is kind of a learning thing, right? Because there's always kind of a new issue that might come up. But in general, publishing is really the royalties that are derived from your composition, right? And so I guess the definition of that composition is the percentage that you own of a song that you worked on, right? So if there was only two people, meaning one artist, one producer, the splits are pretty straightforward. Usually, it's a 50-50 split. So therefore your composition is 50%. So all the streams, right? And if the song's played on the radio, so streams meaning playing on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music, and then also radio plays or being played in a stadium, things like that. Those are all royalties. So publishing royalties, right? And that is what we start calculating, or that's what starts getting calculated. So if you own 50% of a song, right, you're getting 50% of all publishing royalties anyways. So again, it's a little bit kind of high level of what it is. Now there's obviously a whole bunch of, I guess, a couple other things that kind of go into that, but what we can go back to is this is why it's important to always have contracts, or at least some sort of agreement of what is this kind of business agreement between the artist and yourself. So on your BeatStars leases and things of that nature, obviously there's already a contract generated. But sometimes when you're selling exclusives, or maybe that track is being upstreamed to a label, now the label or some of these other entities are sending you a different contract, right? Because what they're doing is they need certain rights for their artists, right? And they need certain rights for their label to put it out. So what I would say is obviously always review those. Don't just blindly sign them. We obviously offer some assistance on our side from the publishing roster, right? And we'll review these contracts as well. But please just have someone look at them, because contracts aren't sometimes always met with the best intention for the other party, right? It's really a best format for the person sending you that contract sometimes, so that's it. Just be careful. Some things to be wary about too. If the contract just says work for hire, right, usually what that means is they're going to give you a money in return for all your rights. So it'd be like $3,000, and now I own your publishing and I own the master side, which, listen, we would never say, hey, just sign those. Maybe sometimes the money outweighs what you think the publishing royalties are going to be, but you always have to assume a lot of these songs, especially if some of these artists are going probably going to be pushed by the label and might be bigger than you think. And so, though publishing royalties may take a minute to receive, right? That's another gripe a little bit, is that it is an old process, right? So sometimes some of these royalties take around 6 months to actually see what you've made. But you will have to believe and trust that if these songs are being streamed in the millions of times, that at times the money that you're receiving as a work for hire is probably less than you would have gotten from publishing royalties. All right, so just things to look at, right, at the end of the day. So I know that's a little long-winded, but I kind of went over certain things of how they would interact with you, a label or an artist, if they're going, sending you different contracts. But it's just great to know your rights as a writer. You're typically, if, like I told you in the beginning, that example, one-on-one, one artist and yourself, that's a 50-50 split, unless they come to you with paperwork that says otherwise and you're getting paid to remove some of your publishing ownership, right? So always be mindful of that, and know that even on a lease that you're leasing a beat, depending on what your contract says, I know some members put a lease at 100% publishing for the producer, others put 50-50, but just know that you own those copyrights at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind, because a lot of people forget that they even own any piece of pub, or even master percentages, which we can get into later. But that's generally publishing at the end of the day.
Perfect. All right, the next question, it kind of goes hand in hand, but it was, what's the point of publishing for producers?
Yeah, I mean that's basically kind of what I ended it with. It's that, it's your ownership of these songs. So again, people might tell you don't have any ownership, or you might not really pay attention to it, but you do, and it's important. And you never know, especially in this new era of music consumption and how people are discovering new music, where you have songs on TikTok that are 6 years old still trending. You never know what's going to happen to these tracks. That's why it's important to have paperwork and it be clearly defined what everyone owns. And then B, that you're just on top of that business and making sure that you're getting that paperwork. And I know that it's a commonplace for labels not to send some paperwork on a timely manner and things like that. It's just going to require some follow-up on a consistent basis for you to get that, because it is important. We have a lot of members that are now, they don't know what the splits are, and the songs have been out for 2 years, right? And so, we can assist by reaching out and trying to figure out from that label team or artist team. But it's usually better if it's done on the point of, before release or around that time as well. So that's why it's kind of important. I guess it's yours. It's like your stuff. It's things that you own. You're spending your your time on it every day to create these great instrumentals and then market yourself to put them in place and in front of artists. So, you need to think like, okay, outside of all that, there's another business that's happening, and which is the typical music business. And it's this ownership of copyrights, and so, just know that that's what it is in that traditional sense. Like if you were to walk in a studio, or anyone that's involved in there is having a piece of that song that's made, if they all contribute to it, right? So 4 people are in a room and they're writing a song, then generally, sorry about that, then generally, you're going to split that into 4. So again, it's just important to know that there are sizable payouts if you keep track of this, and if you're involved in songs that are obviously being streamed and listened to at an insane rate, so.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question was, why hasn't Lithuanian PRO been added yet?
I saw that question just come in, so we're discussing with our administration team. There's usually different factors dependent on them not being set up properly with a certain organization, or within Sony, because that's our partner, right, on the admin side. So we'll look into that and figure out why and what the reasoning is. So we'll get back to you direct, obviously, and really see how we can work that out. But there are also alternatives too, because it's just not, if Lithuania, it might not even be just that one off. There's certain other countries that may not, for some reason, their organizations aren't meeting standards set by some of the other companies, right? So if that's the case, there's others that we could point you to as well, because a lot of these PROs, especially here in the United States, are worldwide. So they're collecting all around the world. So anyways, we'll figure out that solution. But that's another kind of positive of what we do here at BeatStars. It's like any questions you guys ever have, obviously feel free to reach out to the publishing at beatstars.com email address, and we'll get to it ASAP, and really try to figure out why those issues are happening for you. And even if you needed a quick walkthrough on their portal or how to register songs, things of that nature, we're always here to really assist. And hence why we're doing this monthly conversation as well, because this was generally done one-on-one, but now we wanted to open it up to everyone, and just make sure all your questions are being heard. So.
All right. So now we'll start taking questions from the chat. The first one we have is from Tiger Backwood Beats. Where are publishing from social media coming from, like reels and stories? How does that work?
So those are all deals that these like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok have all brokered already. So those are almost on it's pennies, right? Like tenths of pennies, just much as it is on Spotify. But those are coming with these kind of pre-approved deals that these companies have to cut with the PROs and the mechanical societies and all that, because they are using music at an insane rate, right? So that it had to be regulated. All these kind of companies have to go through that. So that's what it is. They're paying a license every time it's being played, but it's a predetermined amount from those, whatever they discussed with the organizations. So that's where it's coming from. Now, again, they have to be official sounds. All right. They have to be sounds that are taken from, like, if you go on Instagram, you go on the tag music and you search, those songs get played. Now, if it's just a song being recorded, in the background of your video, those aren't going to get paid because it's not official, right? So same with TikTok, right? You got to pull that official sound. And so they know, okay, that's the song that's being used and tagged in all these videos. That's how you're getting your royalties. So that's how they determine that. So if I was just playing a song right now on my computer and I shot a video right in this room, no one would get paid off of that. It would probably get pulled down too, from a copyright strike. So.
All right. What's the best way to become visible on socials, YouTube, etc.? Where should I post beats to find artists? It's hard to make a beat maker career in my country.
What country are you in? But I mean, that's just for me being inquisitive. But I think on the other side, it's really just, for us, what we say is use every kind of free method there is to promote your music, right? So your YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram, and all that. It's going to be something that we say even for a beat for your store. It's like, just be consistent with the posts, who are you kind of tagging or hashtagging. And then I would also suggest boosting those posts a little bit, because that's how you're getting in front of a lot of these people, right? So unfortunately, every like YouTube or different kind of method has its own strategy. But it all kind of has the same basis of consistency, and in really finding out who that audience is that you're trying to target. So if you're like, oh, I'm making songs for, I don't know, Mac Miller, right? RIP. But it's like, you would say, okay, well, what are all the similar artists to that? Who can I target that way? But also it's just reaching out direct. I think, Cami and I were just talking about this morning. We kind of forget that everyone's human, and yes, some are more busier than others. And obviously you're going to DM Travis or a Playboy Cardi. Obviously, you're probably not going to get a response right away. But a lot of these other artists that you want to connect with, we always say, look at some of the, the rising ones as well. And ones that are open to new sounds and opening up their producer circle. Because as you get, a couple platinum tracks later, you kind of get set in your who your producer circle is, as you guys know. So I would just say continually reaching out and just really putting yourself out there, which I know isn't always, what you want to do. But you'll see that you'll probably get a lot more responses than not. And I'm sure you've seen other kind of stories when an artist would post, hey, send me beats, right? And I think one of our members did this with Trippie Redd when he had something last year, and he was sending a beat every day. Now, that's insane kind of persistence, but sometimes that's what it takes, because listen, there's a lot out there, and as there's as many artists, there's as many producers almost, right? So I know there's a lot of noise, and you just want to be that one that kind of breaks through with your great music, and again, that kind of persistence and just being on top of it, right? And so again, I know that it's a pretty loaded question, but I think it's like you start focusing on that and maybe get some wins like that, because sometimes when you go so wide, it's tough. You may not really get that quality that you were looking for, or maybe any responses at all. So I would just hone in on a handful of artists you like and reach out. I know it's a lot easier, or sorry, a lot harder than I'm saying it is, but listen, we go through the same thing sometimes, and it's just that, hey, you'll hit them on that one time that says, oh yeah, hey, let's work. So that's what I would suggest.
All right. Next up is from Grandtastic Beats. If you distribute your beat to Spotify, etc., to be heard, do you suggest to also add to publishing? And does that affect if an artist purchases your beat and tries to distribute it too? I've heard stories of artists having issues submitting.
No, I mean we have a lot of members that do that. So you upload it through Spotify, and then, or you distribute it, and then you want to publish it as well, or sorry, collect your publishing royalties on it. So that's pretty commonplace, because listen, that's instrumental could get 10 million streams. So, and if you own 100% of that, right? I'll give you quick math. This a Spotify stream and all that is called a mechanical royalty. And so essentially a million streams, this is rough, but a million streams on Spotify is roughly $1,000 in mechanicals, right? So now again, those streams all have to derive from countries that pay a premium, so like US and Canada and certain ones like that. So that's why I said roughly. It could change if all your streams came from a different country, but anyways, so let's just say that, and you're 100% owner of that beat that has 10 million streams. That's $10,000 in publishing royalties, right? So you would want to do that. Now, does that affect your, the artist buying it? Not so much, because that artist essentially, I guess, it's what they're trying to purchase. So if it's an exclusive, then maybe there's an instance where, hey, you have to pull down that instrumental now, depending on the deal that you're making. I don't know what the deal is, right? So it could all be varied. You could also probably say, well, I'm going to keep rights to the instrumental, and you can have rights to this new copyright, right? So again, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So, but I've never really seen an artist complain too much, for it being published as well. If you're distributing it, it's already out in the open, So I've only seen more concern on that side, but it's been very little, I've seen placements happen, because that instrumental was up there and it was used in Snapchat or on a Reels or whatever. Again, this is where that last question of marketing goes in. You just don't know where you're going to capture your audience from, and so if that instrumental is being used in all these Instagram Reels, maybe that's going to put you in front of that artist. Like for example, I believe it's Tundra, who's on BeatStars, and he had a track that was used by like a bunch of sport team, or this one instrumental, I think it's called "Beautiful Day," by Britney Spears, all the sports teams, all this stuff, and the song is doing very well. It's like 11 million streams just as an instrumental. So I would say put it out there.
Yeah, and then Grandtastic Beats, he followed up. He said, I just had an artist have an issue distributing his song on a beat he bought from me. We think it is because I already have an ISRC with the beat I distributed.
Possibly. I guess it just depended what is the error, because everyone's different, and I guess what distributor. So if you're trying to do that, I don't know if it would flag that way. But I would just need to know what the error is, or guess what that main issue is. If it's not just being accepted, then in that case, I would just you could what do you call it? Generate a new ISRC for that specific song, which should be done anyways, because every new iteration of a track should have a new ISRC. It's the way that they track it. So I think the rule is, even if the song, let's say they did a remix, was 10 seconds longer, I think it's 10 seconds, that needs to have a new ISRC. So for instance, an instrumental has one ISRC, the vocal or studio version would have another ISRC, so on and so forth, because they're all different versions. So.
All right, cool. All All right, I think that's all the questions we have from the chat. Was there anything else that you wanted to go over or emphasize on?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I said a little bit in the front, and I know I can talk a little bit too much, but really just I would say be aware when these things come down, in terms of placements and all that. Please just review those contracts. Every day we see something new that is kind of a sob story because it's a contract that was signed that probably shouldn't have been signed, and we could have asked for a little bit more rights or percentages of publishing or whatever it is. So again, in this day and age, you just never know what's really going to be a hit song. So nothing should be considered a throwaway, especially if it's your art. I know a beat might have taken you maybe an hour or whatever, and you just discounted it as, oh, it's an old beat, so I'm gonna just sell it for $400. Like, no, I mean, that's like, your price is your price. It's your standard. This is what people know you for. You're building a brand as this is all going on, right? And then much like you're building that kind of brand of, this is what you expect when you come to me, right? And what I'm offering. And you just don't want to kind of water it down with like, oh, that's an old thing. Here's this. I understand making the sale and all that. That's great. But I think it's knowing your value, knowing your worth, and that drips all the way down to making sure that all your tracks that you're doing and you're reviewing those contracts and just making sure that you're coming out on top on a lot of these deals. And the other thing is, I think, keeping track of these placements or even the artists that are buying them, right? Again, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I would say publishing is important. Everything that you create has publishing associated to it. You never know what's going to happen to that song. We look at tracks every day. Wow, this song was from whoever. For instance, who's the artist, Cammy? His name's Playboy, I think. Oh, that's the name of the song. JX0, right? So he has a track, Playboy, that was trending on TikTok, or still is, and was on the viral charts. Listen, that song was made last year, right? So it took how long for that to react now? So the producer Rex made sure that he had that paperwork kind of sorted. And because again, you just never know what's going to happen. And now here we are, and the song is doing what? It's at 17 million plays, and when we knew about it, it was at 200,000. So again, like in that instance, it's great that he had the foresight to know we need paperwork here and all that stuff, because again, that song ended up being successful. So now he's in a better position to negotiate things and discuss other placements and things like that, because he had his paperwork straight, and he was credited and all this stuff. So again, it's very important. I just want to say, every song that you lease, it's important, and just make sure. Luckily, with BeatStars, you have that contracting, so it's all laid out. But I just don't want to discount the contracting phase, because that's where everyone gets messed up on, and they get taken advantage of. So please be careful of that. But outside of that, I appreciate everyone joining, and I know we have Chris Rich coming on, so it's going to be a monthly thing. Please submit, please rejoin and join in the conversation, because we felt like this wasn't really happening, across the board and outside of certain panels with, certain people, this and that, but to have it consistently out in the open for everyone to understand that, listen, it is important. Because again, you just never know. You never know what will happen with that track.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of the insight. I appreciate it, and everyone else does. All right, so now let's bring in Chris Rich.
Hey guys.
How are you?
What's up, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good, man.
Good. Thank you for waiting a little bit. I saw you got in there early.
No, it's all good.
All right, awesome. So for everyone who doesn't know you, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, I'm Chris Rich, producer from the UK, from Cardiff, living in London right now. Yeah, make beats, of course. That's about it.
All right.
Killing it, man.
Appreciate it.
He's got the number. You got the part of the #1 album.
Oh yeah, just went #1 in the UK.
Hell yeah, man.
The #1 album in the UK was Central C. That was sick. Always working on stuff. A lot of drill, a lot of other stuff. It's fun.
Awesome. And when did you start producing? When did you start on BeatStars? All that?
I started on BeatStars probably about 4 years ago, but it wasn't working. And then I started properly about 2 years ago. Started taking it really seriously. Started taking my branding seriously. Started making sure every beat uploaded was a good quality, and yeah, everything went well. Still going well.
And I mean, when you say that you've started taking it properly, what are some things you implemented to actually see success on the platform?
I think just like having a plan, having a strategy, picking an artist, picking a niche. Yeah.
Awesome. And since then, I mean, obviously we just talked about you had the #1 album in the UK. But what are some other placements you have that you think stand out, or your biggest placement, or the one you're most proud of? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, right now I'm really proud of the #1.
As you should be.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like working with Central C. I really like working. I like working with a lot of the UK artists, to be honest. Tion Wayne. One of my first songs that came out was with these artists, Dig That and H, which was quite big at the time. It went top 10 in the UK. That was about 2 years ago, and that kind of put me on the map. So I'm really proud of that one. Yeah.
Awesome. I know we spoke about this a little bit before, but how has BeatStars impacted your career as a producer?
BeatStars, it helped me a lot. It helped me get a lot of placements. Helped me be able to support myself. Helped me move from my parents' house to now living on my own, living in London. I've got my own studio. It helps with a lot of stuff.
And when did you sign with BeatStars Publishing?
I think probably now about 7-8 months ago. It was last summer, like I think July or August time. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, and obviously for a producer like yourself, or honestly any producer, choosing a publisher can be a very difficult decision. What ultimately impacted your decision to sign with BeatStars Publishing?
I think there's just a lot of good people at BeatStars, good teams of people, and like BeatStars has always treated me well. Like I remember when I was first selling beats on YouTube, Mike had approached me talking about BeatStars and introduced me to it. And then, yeah, if it wasn't for BeatStars, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I think it was only right.
Well, we love to hear that.
Shout out Mike.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
Shout out Mike.
Shout out Mike. Shout out Mike.
Yeah, shout out Mike. We should have had him on today. But in your opinion, why do you think publishing is important for producers? Because we have a lot of producers who are on the fence about it and don't know if it's the right route for them. But why did you think it was important to sign up with a publisher?
I think it's almost like having a team that can help you, because I mean you could do everything yourself, but it's a lot of work. So if you can offload some of that to a good team that are going to do it well and help you with opportunities, getting to certain artists, help you with linking up with certain producers, and yeah, I think it's very beneficial.
And since signing with BeatStars, what has been one thing that stood out about, like you were saying, like you don't need to do it all yourself, you can have a team. What's one thing that is really like stood out to you with the team environment and with the help?
I mean, just today actually, I was talking to Mike about getting beats to certain artists, and I'm going to LA in a couple of weeks, so he was telling me he's going to sort me a lot of stuff regarding that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, me and Greg are out here, so
sick. Yeah.
Excited for that. All right, so we'll get off of the publishing topic. Who were your biggest musical influences growing up, and why?
It's hard to say. There's so many. I think I love all the iconic hip hop producers like Metro, Kanye, I think, is a huge influence. I love Kanye. I mean, still now, even I always look up and study the greats right now. So people like Wheezy and OZ, and see how they're doing it and what tricks they're doing and kind of how they move. Yeah, I think there's so many influences, to be honest.
And do you think there's anything from those influences that you've really taken and applied to your own career?
I think, well, a lot of them, the same thing comes up, and it's just that they work very hard and they can give themselves breaks, but they're always making beats, whether it's just a beat a day or a loop or whatever, or just a melody, just an idea. They're always working, and I think that kind of like inspires me just to keep the work ethic up.
Awesome. And Greg, I know you have to go soon, but are there any other questions you wanted to ask before you head out?
No, I appreciate Chris being on our first one. So thank you so much, man.
Thank
Congrats
you.
on Central C, the Nike placement you got to discuss.
Oh yeah, the Nike placement. I forgot about that.
You're killing it, man. So looking forward to seeing you in May, though, or when you're out here in LA.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm out in April 1st and May 1st. So it'll be good to link.
All right. And thanks everyone else for joining. It's not over yet. I just got to get out. So, see you again.
See you, Greg.
All right. Only have a couple more questions, but any advice for the producers watching that you think they could apply to their own career?
I think just, like, give yourself the best shot you can. So like, make sure that you're not slacking. Make sure you're working as hard as you can if you want to be like one of the greats. That's what I tell myself every day. So yeah.
Well, thank you for all that insight. Where can everyone find you on socials, on BeatStars, or wherever?
My BeatStars is Chris Rich Beats, and my socials, my Instagram is Chris Rich Beats, my YouTube is Chris Rich Beats. Everything I think is Chris Rich Beats.
Okay.
Twitter,
so easy.
TikTok. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming into our first pub talk. Stay tuned for the next date, which will be next month. And thank you again, Chris, and have a great week.
Okay.
I don't know date, but all right. Thank you. See ya.
So there's a bit of lag. Thank you very much. See you. Bye.